My name is Raven Lancaster. I'm 35 years old, and for the past 12 years, my world has revolved around one person, my daughter, Emma. People always say motherhood is a story of sacrifice, of transformation, of learning to balance fear and love in equal measure. But for me, motherhood is a thread, thin, golden, fragile, woven straight through my heart the day Emma was born. And when I lost her father, that thread was the only thing that kept me standing. He died in a car accident when Emma was 4. One moment we were a family, the next I was a widow with a child whose small hands clutched at the hem of my shirt whenever the nightmares came. But we survived. We built something new out of the pieces we were given. We built a life. Emma is 12 now. Smart, funny, gentle, stubborn, in all the best ways. She sings when she cooks ramen. She laughs at her own jokes before she finishes telling them. And she has hair, long, silken, golden hair that falls almost to her waist. She cares for that hair like it's a living thing, washes it gently, conditions it, brushes it until it shines. She tells me it makes her feel close to her father. And I understand, because that hair is more than hair. It's the last piece of a man she still remembers in fragments of scent and warmth. For 6 quiet years, it was just me and Emma against the world. And then 2 years ago, Daniel Ward walked into our lives. He was 31 then, calm, soft-spoken, confident in a humble way that made me think he'd be a good man to lean on. He worked in automotive design, creative, smart, ambitious. He approached Emma with kindness from the beginning, buying her little snacks, complimenting her braids, asking her to teach him how she did those woven crown hairstyles she learned from YouTube. Emma liked him at first. I did too. He felt safe. He felt stable. He felt like a second chance. When we got married 6 months ago, I truly believed we were starting a future. Emma had even made him a small clay keychain that spelled Dan, and he'd clipped it onto his laptop bag like it was priceless. But 6 months is a long time for someone to drop the mask. And Daniel, he dropped his slowly. It began with comments. Little ones, soft ones, ones you only notice in hindsight. She spends so much time brushing her hair, he'd say lightly. You don't want her growing up shallow. Or, girls these days are obsessed with looks. You should help her build character. Or the one that first made something cold settle in my stomach. You don't want her to end up like those women who think beauty is everything. Teach her humility. I told myself he was just being old-fashioned. Maybe a little insecure. I told myself it was fine. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He wasn't cruel. Not yet. Still, I shut it down quickly. Emma takes care of herself. That's not vanity, I told him. She's a kid who enjoys feeling pretty. There's nothing wrong with that. He'd nod, smile, kiss my cheek. And the next day, when I wasn't around, he'd tell Emma she'd checked the mirror too much. The comments grew into rules he created without asking me. 2 minutes maximum in front of the mirror. No selfies unless it's for school projects. No trying on clothes unless she's actually leaving the house. No hair tutorials if she's already styled it. He called it discipline, preventing narcissism, building inner strength. I called it what it was, controlling. But every time I confronted him, he would soften, say he was just trying to help, and promise to ease up. And every time, the moment I stepped away, he would start again. Emma never complained. She just grew quieter. She brushed her hair in her room with the door closed, listening for his footsteps. She avoided passing the hallway mirror. She stopped taking silly pictures with her friends. She was never afraid of the dark until she became afraid of her own reflection. And still I told myself, he's trying. He just doesn't understand. Give it time. Marriage is adjustment. But things didn't get better. 3 weeks ago, he threw away all of Emma's hair accessories. Every clip, every ribbon, every scrunchie she'd collected over years. He dumped them in the kitchen trash while she was at school. When Emma came home and saw they were gone, she cried the way a child cries when something safe has been ripped from their hands. Daniel just shrugged. She focuses too much on her appearance. She needs to learn what matters. I forced him to drive with me to Target to replace everything that night. I didn't yell, but my voice was cold enough to frost glass. He apologized. He claimed he'd gotten carried away. I hoped we were moving forward. I was wrong, because Daniel didn't want discipline. He wanted control. And he didn't resent Emma's vanity. He resented her light. The kind of quiet resentment you only notice in the way he watched her braid her hair in the reflection of a window. As if beauty offended him. As if joy was arrogance. As if her father's memory was a threat. And somewhere deep in my bones, I felt a warning. A mother's warning. The kind that whispers, "Something is coming, pay attention." But I didn't know, not yet. Not until the night Daniel decided he would teach my daughter a lesson she would never forget. A lesson he believed she deserved. A lesson that would turn our home into a crime scene. A lesson that would reveal exactly who he was when he thought no one was watching. The thing about danger is that it rarely arrives with thunder. Sometimes it tiptoes in quietly, woven into routines, into sighs, into the small moments you think you can overlook. That's how Daniel's behavior seeped into our home. At first, it was just odd comments, then rules, then punishments dressed up as lessons. But 3 weeks before everything shattered, something shifted, like a hinge in his mind finally clicking into place, opening a door I didn't know existed. It started with Emma's confidence. She'd always been expressive, braiding her hair into elaborate crowns, practicing hairstyles she learned online, taking goofy selfies with glitter filters, and laughing at how ridiculous they looked. She wasn't the type of girl who obsessed over beauty. She just enjoyed it. It was creative for her, a way to connect with her father, a way to feel herself. But after Daniel's rules, I noticed her shrinking. She'd pause mid-brush when she heard him walk down the hall. She'd delete photos without posting them. She'd avoid passing the hallway mirror if she knew Daniel might see. It wasn't vanity she worried about. It was punishment. I spoke to Daniel after noticing this. "Daniel, stop making her self-conscious. She's a kid, not a soldier." He gave me that soft sigh he always used before lecturing me. "Raven, you're too lenient. Girls today grow up obsessing over their looks. I'm trying to help her develop character." "She has character," I snapped. "You're just upset she likes feeling pretty." He frowned, then kissed my forehead. "You're overreacting. But okay, I'll ease up." He said it like a promise. It felt like a threat. Because the next day, while Emma was at school, he threw away every single hair accessory she owned. Headbands, ribbons, the delicate blue clip her father bought her when she was 3. Every scrunchie, every butterfly pin, every braid tie. All of it, dumped into a trash bag under coffee grounds and leftovers. Like garbage. Emma found the empty drawer that afternoon. I'd never seen her face break like that. "Mom, where are my things? Did I lose them? Did I do something wrong?" Her voice trembled. Her hands shook. She checked every drawer as if maybe she'd misplaced her childhood. "No, sweetheart," I said gently. "You didn't do anything wrong." Daniel came into the room at that exact moment, almost like he'd been waiting for the scene to unfold. He crossed his arms casually. "Emma, you focus too much on your appearance. I threw those things away to help you." Emma's lip quivered. For my own good?" "Yes," he said, with an authority he hadn't earned. "You're becoming shallow, and it's my responsibility to teach you better habits." I stepped between them with a calm that surprised even me. "Daniel, you and I are going to the store, now." He blinked at me like he didn't understand English. "We're replacing everything tonight," I said firmly. "Get your keys." "But Raven—" "Your keys, Daniel." He didn't argue again. At Target, he walked tensely beside me, jaw clenched, choosing silence over apology. I filled the basket with every color, every style, everything Emma used to have, and more. When we got home, Emma hugged me like she was trying to anchor herself to the world. Daniel muttered something that sounded like an apology, but the words felt hollow, practiced. He kept his eyes low, as if avoiding reflection. That night, I caught him watching Emma brush her hair in her bedroom mirror. Not with admiration, not even annoyance, but something darker, something evaluative, cold, calculating, like he was deciding something. I stepped sharply into the hallway, and he immediately straightened, face softening into a smile. "You okay?" I asked. He shrugged. "She spends too much time on that hair. It's unhealthy." "She's allowed to be a kid," I replied, voice hard. He lifted his hands in surrender. Of course, of course." But the way he said it, the way his eyes lingered on Emma's reflection, it made my stomach twist. I started keeping myself more aware, watching interactions, listening to the tension in Emma's voice whenever Daniel entered a room. I tried to talk to her one night. "Hey," I whispered as she brushed her hair. "Is Daniel making you uncomfortable?" She paused, brush midair. "No," she said too quickly. "I'm okay." But I saw the truth hiding in the way her fingers clung to the brush, in the way her shoulders tensed, in the way she didn't meet my eyes. Emma had inherited her father's gentleness and his habit of hiding pain to protect people. I made a mental note to talk to Daniel again. But then, work sent an email, mandatory 3-day conference in Chicago, annual training, non-negotiable. I tried everything to avoid leaving them alone. I asked my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, to check in on Emma. I even suggested Daniel's sister stay over. But Daniel waved it off. We'll be fine. It's 3 days, Raven. Stop worrying. He kissed me goodbye at the airport with a smile that made my heart flutter. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I could trust him. I told myself he wouldn't cross any boundaries while I was gone. And when Emma called me that first night, telling me how she'd deep conditioned her hair and braided it into a crown she was proud of, I felt relieved. Everything seemed okay. I whispered goodnight and went to sleep, believing the storm had passed. But storms don't disappear. They gather silently. And the next morning at 6 a.m., my phone exploded in my hand. Emma's voice was hysterical, choked, barely recognizable. Mom, please come home. My hair, Daniel, scissors. She was sobbing so hard I couldn't understand most of it, but one word cut through the chaos. Gone. Something inside me broke. I didn't pack. I didn't check out. I didn't breathe. I just ran, straight to my car, driving 4 hours in a blur of panic, praying I wasn't too late, praying the worst thing I imagined wasn't true. But mothers know. I knew. I knew the moment I heard her voice. Daniel hadn't just crossed a line. The drive home felt like a hallucination. I don't remember the roads, the exits, the rain that started halfway through. I don't remember the ache in my chest, or the way my hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the steering wheel. I only remember Emma's voice. Mom, he cut it while I was sleeping. Mom, please hurry. 12 years, and I had never heard her sound like that. Broken, terrified, violated. By the time I screeched into the driveway, I wasn't even aware of my own body anymore. My legs carried me into the house as if someone else were steering them. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called her name. Emma, baby, where are you? No answer. My heart slammed into my ribs as I raced toward her room. The door was locked from the inside. Emma, it's Mom. Open the door, please. A tiny click. Then the softest sob. The door opened 2 inches, then wider, slowly, like she was afraid something else might be waiting behind me. She stood there in an oversized hoodie, sleeves trembling around her hands, her eyes red and swollen. And her hair. My God. Her beautiful golden hair, the hair she brushed every night, the hair tied to her father's memory, was gone. But not cut, not styled, not trimmed. Hacked. Jagged, uneven chunks. Long strands hanging like broken threads. Some sections chopped down to stubble. Other pieces left dangling like a butchered puppet. It looked like someone had taken garden shears to her in the dark. Emma clutched the neckline of her hoodie like she was trying to hide inside it. Mom, she whispered, voice hollow. He waited until I fell asleep. I pulled her into my arms, and she collapsed against me with such force that we nearly fell to the floor. She was trembling, not shivering, but trembling in that way trauma lives in the bones. I woke up and the air felt cold, she sobbed. I touched my neck and there was nothing. I thought maybe I was dreaming, but then I saw the hair on my pillow and he was standing there. Her breath hitched. He was holding scissors, Mom. Those words iced my bloodstream. I stroked what was left of her hair, trying to steady my voice. You're safe. I'm here now. He can't hurt you again. I promise you. Emma wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. Mom, he told me I was too attached to my looks, that Dad made me spoiled, that I needed to learn humility. My throat closed. He said Dad raised me wrong. I froze. Dad raised me to be a shallow princess, Emma whispered, eyes filling again. He said you never taught me real values. He said he was fixing me. It was a miracle the walls didn't burst into flames from the rage that surged through me. But then she said something that shattered me all over again. Mom, he didn't cut my hair. She swallowed. He cut Dad's hair. Her voice broke entirely. This was the last thing I had of him. Every part of me wanted to scream, to tear the house apart, to burn the world down. But Emma needed a mother, not a storm. So I held her, and held her, and held her, until the shaking eased enough that she could breathe. Stay here, I whispered. Lock the door. Don't come out until I get you. She nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. I don't want to see him. Please don't make me see him. You won't, I promised. Not ever again. When I stepped into the hallway and closed her door gently behind me, something inside me shifted. A calm, a clarity, a steel I didn't know I was capable of. Because a man who cuts a child's hair in her sleep is not unstable. He is dangerous. I walked toward the kitchen, every step echoing like a countdown. Daniel was humming. Actually humming. Standing over the stove scrambling eggs like it was any other Sunday. Like he hadn't just committed a violation so intimate and cruel it could scar a child for years. Morning, he said warmly when he saw me. You're home early. I didn't speak, I just stared. He shrugged, like we were talking about a minor inconvenience. I gave Emma a haircut last night. A haircut. A haircut. That word made something dark bloom inside my chest. You cut her hair, I said, voice low, while she was asleep. He rolled his eyes. Raven. She's too obsessed with her hair. It's unhealthy. Girls like her need humility, not vanity. I was helping her. Helping, I repeated, tasting the word like poison. You attacked her. He scoffed. Oh, come on, it's just hair. Something inside me snapped. I stepped closer. You violated her body. You violated her safety. You traumatized her. He stiffened, eyes narrowing. I'm her father figure now, he said sharply. I have the right to make parenting decisions. I laughed, a sound that felt more like a broken exhale. You have zero rights when it comes to Emma, I whispered. And you never will. His mask slipped, just like that. His face tightened with something hateful, a twisted sneer that revealed every suppressed resentment, every insecurity, every ugly truth he'd been hiding beneath nice guy charm. That little princess has been spoiled her whole life, he spat. Someone needed to teach her that beauty fades, and she better develop substance before she ends up a useless, shallow woman like her father. The world froze. Silence filled my ears like static. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe. I just said 5 words quietly, calmly, irrevocably. Here is your lesson, Daniel. Then I turned around and walked away. Not out of fear, not out of restraint, but because if I stayed, I wasn't sure I would remain the version of myself that Emma needed. As I dialed the pediatrician's number, then my lawyer's, then the police, I understood something with perfect clarity. Daniel had not simply cut my daughter's hair. He had shown me exactly who he was. And now, he was going to face consequences. There is a moment in every mother's life, a moment so sharp, so defining, that it divides time in two. Who you were before, and who you become after. For me, that moment was standing in my living room with the phone pressed to my ear, hearing Emma's pediatrician say quietly, firmly, Raven, this is assault. Not exaggeration, not overreaction, not a misunderstanding. Assault on my child in her sleep. My hands trembled as I explained everything to Dr. Martinez. The hair, the uneven hacking, Emma's terror, Daniel's justification. She didn't hesitate. Document it. Call the police. Now. I'll send over the medical file for the officers. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer, leaving a voicemail that felt like ripping open a wound. Emergency situation. I need a protection order. Daniel assaulted Emma. And then I dialed the non-emergency police line. My voice was monotone, controlled. The voice of a woman who had crossed the line between fear and fury and wasn't coming back. The officer said they would send someone within the hour. I thanked them. Then I went to Emma. She was curled on her bed, knees pulled to her chest, clutching a pillow like a life raft. Her chopped hair, those jagged remnants, fell unevenly over her face. I sat beside her. She leaned into me without a word, her whole body limp from exhaustion. Mom, she whispered, will he come in here? No, I said. The door stays locked. I'm here. She nodded, but her fingers gripped my sleeve like she didn't believe safety was possible anymore. Trauma can do that. Erase the concept of safety in a single night. I brushed a strand of her hacked hair behind her ear. We're going to fix this, I told her. I promise. Her eyes, swollen and glassy, met mine. Even if it doesn't grow back the same? Even then. Especially then. I kissed her forehead, stood, and locked her door again from the inside. Then I stepped into the hallway, a hallway that suddenly felt too narrow, too dark, too full of everything Daniel had poisoned. I walked toward the kitchen where he still stood, leaning against the counter, eating scrambled eggs like a man who hadn't shattered a child's spirit hours earlier. When he saw me, he smiled, a sickening, casual grin that made my stomach twist. You're acting dramatic, he said lightly. You know she needed that lesson. That was when I realized Daniel didn't think he'd done anything wrong. Not by accident, not by misunderstanding, not even in hindsight. He believed completely that he had the right to harm my daughter. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because at that moment, the doorbell rang. Daniel frowned. Who's that? Your consequence, I said. I opened the door. Officer Williams stood there, mid-50s, calm eyes, a face carved from years of seeing the best and worst of humanity. He introduced himself politely, then stepped inside when I waved him through. Daniel's posture stiffened immediately. Officer, is something wrong? The officer didn't answer. He turned to me. Mrs. Lancaster, may I see your daughter? Yes, I said. She's in her room. Your husband should stay here, he instructed. He's not my husband, I said. He's my ex-husband, as of today. Daniel's face twisted. Officer Williams walked down the hall. I unlocked Emma's door, letting him enter gently, respectfully, introducing himself, speaking softly, documenting the injuries with a camera. Emma sat stiffly while he photographed the back of her head, her sides, the jagged chunks. She answered every question with trembling clarity. I was asleep. Yes, he cut it without permission. No, I didn't say he could. Yes, he said I needed humility. When Emma whispered, I was scared, the officer's jaw tightened ever so slightly. He finished the interview, closed his notebook, and stood. Emma, you did everything right, he told her. You were very brave. Then he stepped out into the hallway. Daniel straightened, trying to look composed. Officer, this is blown out of proportion. She's obsessed with her hair. I was just trimming it. Kids exaggerate. The officer turned fully to face him, voice calm but edged with steel. You don't accidentally shave a child's hair down to the scalp in multiple places. Daniel laughed awkwardly. You're taking the word of a... Cutting someone's hair without consent, the officer interrupted, is assault under state law. Doing so, while the victim is asleep, escalates it. Doing so to a minor who is not your child is considered child abuse. Daniel's mouth fell open. Wait, what? No, this is ridiculous. Officer Williams didn't flinch. Sir, place your hands behind your back. Daniel took half a step back. You can't be serious. The officer stepped forward with calm precision. Hands behind your back. And then the sound cut the air. The cold, metallic click of handcuffs closing around Daniel's wrists. I watched his face transform. Smugness, confusion, fear, rage. He turned toward me, eyes wild. Raven, are you insane? It's just hair. Officer Williams tugged him gently but firmly. That you cut off a sleeping child without permission, he said, and that is called assault. You are under arrest. Daniel struggled as he was led to the door. You're ruining my life over this, over her vanity. I lifted my chin. No, I said quietly. I'm saving hers. The officer guided Daniel into the patrol car, shut the door, and drove away. And when the house finally went silent, truly silent, I realized my hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time. From the weight of everything I finally understood. Daniel hadn't just cut Emma's hair. He hadn't just attacked her appearance. He had violated her sense of safety, her identity, and her connection to her father. He had chosen cruelty. And now, for the first time, he was facing consequences for it. I returned to Emma's room. She was still on the bed, wrapped in her blanket, eyes swollen. When I sat down beside her, she whispered, Is he gone? Yes, I said, he won't be back. She exhaled slowly, like releasing a breath she'd been holding for months. Mom, thank you. I brushed my fingers gently over the uneven stubble at her neck. No, sweetheart, I whispered. Thank you. You survived him. Outside, the sirens faded into the distance. Inside, the storm he left behind was only beginning. But at least now, Emma wasn't facing it alone. The house felt different after Daniel's arrest. Not peaceful, not yet, but lighter, like someone had opened a window after months of stale, suffocating air. Daniel was out of the house, but the damage he left behind, that stayed. Especially with Emma. That night, she slept with the lights on, and the next night, and the night after that. Every time I checked on her, she was curled tightly beneath her blanket, one hand tucked under her short, uneven hair, as if trying to protect what was left. She never said she was scared. She didn't need to. Fear hung over her like a shadow. I knew she needed help, more than my arms and my words could offer. So the next morning, I got her an appointment with a child trauma therapist, Dr. Haley Ramirez. Dr. Ramirez had warm eyes and a gentle voice, and Emma clung to that softness immediately. The first session was quiet, hesitant. The second, Emma cried the entire time. The third, she finally spoke. It happened while I was sleeping, she whispered. What if someone else hurts me when I'm asleep? That sentence nearly ripped my heart out. But it also made me more determined than ever to see Daniel held accountable. Meanwhile, Daniel's family started their campaign. A call from his mother, Raven, you're being vindictive. A haircut isn't abuse. A call from his sister, you're ruining Daniel's life over something that grows back. A text from his cousin, you always were dramatic. And finally, a voicemail from his ex-girlfriend, Marissa, filled with venom. You're trying to destroy him. He told me what you did. You're sick. I blocked them all. Because this wasn't about hair. It never was. It was about control, cruelty, violation, fear. And I knew the law would see it that way too. 3 days after the arrest, we were granted a temporary restraining order. Daniel couldn't come near the house, Emma's school, or my workplace. But he wasn't done. He violated the restraining order twice in the first week, driving past Emma's school slowly, circling the block like a shark. When the school administration reported it, the court revoked his bail. Daniel was taken back into custody. For the first time since this nightmare began, I slept without jolting awake. The legal process moved quickly. The district attorney assigned to our case, Ms. Torres, was firm and sympathetic. She reviewed the photos, Emma's statement, and the pediatrician's report. "This isn't borderline," she told me. "This is a clear-cut case of assault and child endangerment." A preliminary hearing was scheduled 2 weeks later. But before that came something even harder. Emma's testimony. She was allowed to testify via closed-circuit video. Thank God. She didn't have to see Daniel, didn't have to feel his eyes on her. Still, the moment she sat in front of that screen, shoulders squared but hands trembling, I wanted nothing more than to sweep her out of the room and take her home. The lawyer asked her gently, "Emma, did you give Daniel permission to cut your hair?" Emma's voice cracked. "I was asleep. How could I?" Silence filled the court. Even Daniel's attorney looked down, ashamed. Emma continued, voice steadier. "I woke up and felt cold air on my neck. My hair was on my pillow, and he was holding scissors. I didn't choose this. I didn't want it. I was scared." Her breathing hitched. "And he said my dad raised me wrong. He said I was vain and needed a lesson, but I wasn't being vain. I just wanted to feel close to my dad." Tears blurred my vision. She was 12. She shouldn't have to testify in court. She shouldn't have to defend herself against a grown man's cruelty. But she did. And she did it with more courage than most adults I've ever met. After her testimony, Daniel's attorney made a last-ditch argument that as Emma's stepfather, Daniel had the right to make grooming decisions. The judge fixed him with a cold stare. Trimming a child's hair is a grooming decision. Cutting it in her sleep while hacking it down to the scalp is assault. The intent here was punitive, not parental. Daniel looked small in that moment, smaller than I'd ever seen him. He glared at me, not with anger, but with desperation, as if he truly expected me to stand, to explain, to rescue him from the consequences he brought upon himself. But I stayed still, silent, unmovable, because I wasn't his protector. I was Emma's. Later that day, Ms. Torres handed me a folded letter. "It's from Daniel. His lawyer insisted I deliver it." I opened it reluctantly. The letter was 3 pages of apologies, excuses, self-pity. I never meant to hurt Emma. I was trying to help her grow. I love her like my own daughter. You're blowing this out of proportion. Please don't send me to jail. And then at the bottom, "We can fix this if you come talk to me." I tore the letter in half, then into quarters, then into pieces so small they resembled the hair he'd scattered across Emma's pillow. I threw the pieces away and didn't look back. 2 days later, Dr. Ramirez asked Emma if she wanted to write something for court, a victim impact statement. Emma looked down at her lap. "Can I?" she asked. "Yes," Dr. Ramirez said. "Your voice matters." Emma nodded, then whispered, "I want them to know what it felt like. I want them to understand." And for the first time since the attack, I saw something in her eyes besides fear. Resolve. My daughter wasn't just surviving this. She was reclaiming herself. The trial date was set. The evidence was strong. The DA was confident. But even with all that, I still lay awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The scissors, the hair, the look on Emma's face, the humming in the kitchen. And the question that haunted me, if I hadn't rushed home, what would his next lesson have been? I never wanted to know the answer. And now, because of Emma's courage and the justice system finally working in her favor, I wouldn't have to. The courthouse hallway smelled of old paper and lemon cleaner. Sterile, tired, worn. A place built to hold human suffering until judgment could sift through it. Emma sat beside me on a wooden bench, her short hair tucked behind her ears in uneven layers that no child should ever have to explain. She was steady, not calm. She wasn't pretending to be, but steady in the way people become when they've survived something unthinkable and somehow still move forward. This was the day of sentencing. Daniel stood across the room in handcuffs, wearing an orange jumpsuit that clashed violently with the carefully curated, humble nice guy image he once used to charm his way into our lives. He didn't look at me. He stared at Emma, and Emma, my fierce, wounded, recovering girl, didn't look away. Judge Morrison entered the room, glasses perched on her nose, her tone sharp and businesslike. "We are here for sentencing on the charges of assault and child endangerment in the case of Daniel Ward versus minor Emma Lancaster." Daniel flinched at the phrase versus minor. He always hated being held accountable by anyone he believed was beneath him. Ms. Torres, our DA, went first, presenting the evidence, the timeline, the photos showing the carnage Daniel left on Emma's head. She spoke clinically, but even she paused when referring to the comment about Emma being a spoiled princess raised wrong. Then came Daniel's attorney, who tried one last feeble attempt at damage control. "Your Honor, my client suffered a lapse in judgment." The judge cut him off. "Cutting a child's hair while she sleeps is not a lapse in judgment. It is a violation. Continue." He wilted, even he knew it was over. Then the judge asked a question that made my breath catch. "Does the victim wish to speak?" Emma squeezed my hand. "I do." She stood, walked to the podium with trembling legs, and took a deep breath. Then she read her victim impact statement, and every word carved itself into the room like a blade. "When I woke up, I thought I was dreaming. My hair was on my pillow, and I didn't feel like myself anymore. It was the last thing I had that reminded me of my dad. And he took it. He took it while I was asleep, and I didn't know if he would take something else next. I didn't feel safe in my house, and I still don't feel safe sleeping sometimes. I didn't choose any of this. He chose it for me, and I just want to feel normal again." Her voice cracked on "Dad." Several jurors wiped their eyes. The judge did too. Even Daniel looked down. Not out of remorse, but because the weight of her truth crushed the lies he'd been hiding behind. She stepped down and returned to her seat, breathing hard but relieved. I wrapped my arm around her. She had done it. She had faced her monster. She had won. Finally, Judge Morrison delivered the sentence. "Daniel Ward, your actions demonstrated a disturbing lack of empathy, judgment, and restraint. Sneaking into a child's bedroom to cut her hair while she slept is predatory in nature. This court sentences you to 18 months in state prison, followed by 3 years of probation. You are to complete anger management and parenting classes before any contact with minors is reinstated. You are forbidden from contacting the victim or her mother in any capacity." Her gavel struck the desk like a thunderclap. Daniel's loud inhale echoed as if he'd been punched. 2 officers led him away. He didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just looked small, like the man he pretended to be, a man who only felt powerful hurting someone who couldn't fight back. And now he was the one powerless. When the courtroom emptied, Emma leaned her head against my shoulder. "Mom, is it over?" "Yes," I whispered. "It's over." But healing doesn't begin at the end of a legal sentence. Healing begins when you finally step out of survival mode. Over the next few weeks, Emma blossomed in ways that stunned me. She measured her hair each morning, celebrating each new centimeter like it was a victory, which it was. She began trying new styles with her shortcut, experimenting with accessories, clips, and bows, tiny symbols of regained freedom. One night, she said something that made my eyes burn. "When it gets long again, I want to donate it to kids with cancer so they can feel how I used to feel." I looked at her, this girl who had endured cruelty and still chose kindness, and I felt my chest swell with pride. "Your father would be so proud of you," I said. "Do you think he saw what happened?" she whispered. "I think he saw how strong you were," I replied, "and how strong you still are." She smiled, a real smile, not one born of politeness or fear or forced optimism, but one carved from healing. Family therapy continued for a few months until Dr. Ramirez finally said, "Emma has processed the trauma remarkably well. She's resilient. She's grounded. She understands that what happened wasn't her fault." And Emma, my brave girl, looked at me and said, "I'm ready to sleep without the light on." Slowly the nightmares faded. Slowly the tension in her shoulders eased. Slowly the house became a home again. As for me, I finalized the divorce. Daniel received nothing. No alimony, no property, no claim to our lives. Sometimes people show you exactly who they are when they think you're not watching. Daniel showed me he was someone who would hurt a child to feel powerful. And I showed him that children have mothers who will burn the world down to protect them. Emma is safe now. She is growing. She is healing. She is fierce. Her hair is shoulder length these days, shiny, soft, and entirely her choice. And every morning, when she stands in front of the mirror brushing the strands that are once again hers, I watch her, not to monitor her, but to memorize her strength. Because monsters come in many forms, smiling, charming, and promising the world. But so do heroes. And my daughter, she is one of them.